All right, ma'am. Raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true?
Yes, I do.
All right, you can put your hand down. Ms. Hayward, you're with us.
Thank you. Please state your first and last name for the record,
Tiasha Stewart,
and please spell your first and last name for the record.
Tiashassteward.
Okay. And Ms. Stewart, at this time, I would like to draw your attention to September the 13th of 2024. Can you please tell the court what happened on that day?
We were asleep and he clearly hasn't been taking his medication like he's supposed to, which is why I recommend that if he do to stay on his medication, that he get the shots, because he doesn't take the pills like consistently like I feel like he should. So it causes him to like have episodes. But on that night, he had an episode where he woke me up out of my sleep and accused me of cheating and sleeping with people. And we got into an argument. And he said that he was gonna burn down the house.
Okay. Did he say anything else?
Just talking about saying that he want me to tell the truth, which I was telling him the truth. I'm like, you need to stay on your medication because, don't nobody want to keep getting woke up for stuff that ain't true.
Miss
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One second. What was the sentence? Was it no violent or harassing contact or no contact?
I thought it was no violent or harassing contact.
Your Honor, it was no violent or harassing.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were there any witnesses to the statement that was made by the defendant to you?
Well, at that time, my mom busted in the room. She said she heard him. I mean, she's on the line also, but it was just me and him in the room.
Okay. At any point, did you call the police regarding this incident?
Yes.
Okay. And did they come out to the scene?
Yes, they did.
And what happened when they came out?
They took him to jail.
Okay. Did you give any statements to any law enforcement on that day?
Yeah, me and my mom wrote a report.
Okay. And where did this incident occur? The address?
At my house. The address?
Yes.
Oh, 6097 Yellowwood Court.
Okay. And what county is that in?
Clayton County.
Okay. And the person that made the statement about burn down your house, do you see that person in court today?
Yes.
Can you identify what he is wearing and where he's standing?
On my screen in the upper left with the orange jumpsuit.
Okay. And let the record reflect that the defendant that the victim in this case has identified venue as well as identified the defendant in this case, Your Honor. No questions, no further questions for Ms. Stewart, Your Honor.
Your Honor, you're muted.
You may cross-examine the witness, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Stewart. I'm Attorney Taylor, and I represent Mr. Wilson.
It's kind of hard for me to hear you a little bit.
I'll try and speak up.
That's better. Get closer to the mic. Yeah, that's better when you lean.
Ms. Stewart, how do you know Mr. Wilson?
He's my kid's father.
Okay. How many children do you have together?
We have 3.
And do the two of you live in the same house?
Yes.
So he's there's no reason for him not to be at your house, correct?
Correct.
And you said your mother was present. Does she also live with you?
She's down here helping me. She lives in Colorado, but she's been down here some months.
So she's been living with you for a couple of months to assist you and Mr. Wilson.
Right.
And you indicated that Mr. Wilson has mental health issues, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe the nature of his mental health?
He was diagnosed with schizophrenia, so sometimes he has like paranoid hallucinations where he'll either see stuff that we don't necessarily see, but he believes it to be true.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it'll just cause him to like spaz out. If usually when he's taking his medication, he's fine, but if he's not taking his medication or he don't take his medication and he get a lot of sleep, then he'll be like, you know, I hear somebody in the attic. You need to tell me who's in here, things like that.
And how is his behavior and demeanor towards you when he's on his medication?
We're fine. We're happy. We don't really have any issues when he's on his medication.
Okay. And you said that he was off his medication when this episode occurred.
Correct.
Do you know what medicine he takes for his mental health?
He was on an Invega shot, but then they like they keep on. Hold on, go in there with grandma. He was on his Invega shot, but then here, take him in there. Sorry about that. My kids are home from spring break. Fall break. But he was on his Invega shot, and then he also takes Trilepto. Like they keep switching it because I guess to find the right dosage.
Right. So his medication has varied recently while he was at home.
Correct.
And did his behavior, did you notice his behavior changing as his medication was switched?
Yes.
Before this incident, did you notice any changes in his behavior?
I can kind of tell when he's gonna like have an episode because like we'll just have days or times when we're fine, happy, everything, but with him like trying to find a job and getting like denial applications and stuff,
Mhm.
it kind of like put him in a mood, I would say kind of like a little depression because he's like, I have all these fees and stuff coming up, and he had like all these fees and stuff coming up, and I just recently started working again, so I didn't have no checks coming in at the moment. So it kind of like put him in like a depression because he's like, I gotta pay my court fees and all that stuff. And I can kind of tell he was getting antsy and in like a mood. And then like he'll try and do things to like keep his mind off of the situation, like go outside and play basketball and stuff like that. But I find him saying little like remarks, and that I know that it's leading up to probably we're gonna have an argument.
Right. But generally speaking, though, he is good towards you and your kids, your children that you share when he's on his medication. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yes, I can say that.
So going to the night of the incident, and you indicated that he'd either been off his medication, might have been off of it, but it also changed recently, correct?
Correct.
So when he made the statement, I believe he said it was, I'm going to burn down the house.
Uh-huh.
When you heard that statement, were you immediately in fear that he was going to actually burn down the house?
I would say no. I mean,
Did,
I would say no, I wasn't immediately in fear. I just was like, you don't even start with that, basically. Like, cause most of the time, if he's getting ready to have an episode, if he start like talking in ways that the normal person wouldn't necessarily understand, I feel like I've been with him long enough to where I can kind of tame him down to an extent, because I'll ignore him, like I don't argue back and escalate the situation. So I was just like, no, you're not. And then he's just like, oh, you don't believe me? And then I'm like, my mom busted in the room because we was kind of loud, and it kind of like escalated from there.
so when your mom entered the room, that exacerbated or it made the argument between you and Mr. Wilson get more heated?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I feel like nobody really understands me. Understands him like I do, because I'm on a different level with him. Like, sometimes I know how to like calm him down. And like I told my mom, it probably wouldn't have went as far as it did if she wouldn't have busted in the room, because, sometimes that other people involved with me ignoring him half of the time, I can be like, Joe, just go back to sleep or something, or go take a walk or something. And sometimes he will listen or just lay back down. But at that point, everybody just started arguing, and
Okay. Who called 911 or who called the police?
I did.
Uh, what did you want the police to do when they came? What were you hoping to have?
I know that they can't necessarily like force him to go to like the mental hospital or nothing, but when he gets to that point, like sometimes when I call the police, I ask for like the non-emergency, and I'm like, do y'all have an officer that may specialize in dealing with people who have mental illness? Because I don't want to see him in jail all the time, especially when I know that he has mental illness going on.
Right?
But sometimes when he's in a good mood and he's taking his medication, he feel like he don't need it, and then it causes him to go off of it. But yeah, I called the police. I wanted him to like go to a psychiatric hospital or something, because I'm like, you need to be on your medication. You need to go somewhere where you can like calm down away from us, because you know at that point, with everything going on, I feel like it just heightened the situation, and it probably wasn't going to calm him down unless he was out of the household.
When you
Miss,
talk,
hold on, Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry to interrupt. Miss Stewart, are you familiar with 988?
No.
Okay. So 988 is a new number that people are using nationwide to assist individuals who are in a mental health crisis. So sometimes when you call 911, their response is more of the protect and serve violence related kind of stuff. But if you call 988, when someone's in a mental health crisis, then their focus is getting that person to either a facility that can help, or connecting them with somebody who has more knowledge about how to deal with someone who's in a mental health crisis. So that's sort of like the 911 for a mental health crisis, so that you don't have to worry about maybe the police misunderstanding the situation and it devolving into something that is uncontrollable. So that's one resource that you have, which is 988. Are you familiar with the organization called NAMI?
No.
Okay. So, and I'm telling you these things because as somebody who chooses to be in a relationship with someone who has a mental health illness, these are tools for you and your children, so that you can cope better with Mr. Um, with Mr. Wilson and the episodes, or helping him to maintain his medical health, his mental health treatment. So NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, they have a website, NAMI.org, but they also have a Georgia chapter, NAMI Georgia. So it's NAMIGA.org. And if you
Okay.
Google that, they'll give you the information. They have a crisis line, and they have a regular line where you can call about getting support. They have meetings where family members can kind of get support with each other to figure out how to best navigate the situation where you're in a relationship with, or you have a family member or someone who has mental health illness. Okay.
Okay.
So if you would write those things down and have them
Yes.
available to 988, and then NAMIGeorgia.org. And so, explore the NAMI's website and NAMI Georgia, so that you can have some way to understand how best to deal with the situations, whether he's in crisis or whether he's not. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's difficult dealing with somebody who's an adult, and you can't really take them to a doctor and say, hey, here, give them this medicine. You
Right.
have to rely on them to be compliant.
Right.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Stewart, what would you like to see occur as a result of these proceedings? Do you have an opinion that you'd like to share with the court about Mr. Wilson, and what the best course of action for the court to take is?
I feel like the best course of action for him is his mental health. Like, I feel like sometimes he understands or believes that he has the mental issues, but then when he's feeling good, he feels like he doesn't need it. Or I think because like he talked to a lot of his friends and family members, and they tell him, like, there's such a bad stigma on schizophrenia and stuff, and they're telling him, man, you're not crazy, and I mean, things like that. And I'm like, nobody really knows what I'm dealing with in the household. So it's easy for people who's on the outside looking in, because they don't have those issues with him. When he's at work and stuff, he's a good employee. When he's a fun-loving person when he's around people, but then when he gets in these episodes, it's usually at home, so nobody really sees what goes on but me. So they're telling him things like, you're not crazy, things like this, and then it causes him to be like, oh, she just want me on medication for whatever reason, and then it causes him to relapse off of it.
Do you,
But I've seen when
do you think these episodes
he's
happen when he's tired? Like after the end of a day, he's worked?
Speculation.
I'm just asking for the victims.
Overrule.
we usually have issues at night, because a lot of times he does stay up late at night. Like if he's not getting enough sleep, or sometimes like there used to be times where he wouldn't go to sleep for like a day or so, and then that's when it was really bad. But half of the time I'm telling him, like, go to sleep. Like when his episodes start coming on, it's kind of like I know that he haven't had enough sleep, and I'm like, go take a nap or something. Then sometimes he listen to me, sometimes he don't, but
Okay.
to an extent, yeah, because it mostly happens like 3, 4 in the morning.
And he hasn't been sleeping through that time. He's been awake.
Right.
An episode. And this is an important question. I think the judge really wants to know, how does this affect your children? Are they in any danger, or are they mentally affected? Could you tell us?
My kids are pretty young. Like my 6-year-old, They don't really see it because, like I said, a lot of times it's happening like at like 3 and 4 in the morning, where it's just me and him in the room, maybe arguing and stuff.
Mhm.
They love their dad, and then my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old, they really don't see much to
They're too young to
like
understand.
have an opinion or anything.
Do you have any fear of him being around your children? When you,
No, I don't.
okay. And is it fair to say that the best course of action, in your opinion, would be for more mental health treatment?
Yes, I believe mental health treatment, and before, I mean, I don't know when the last time he's like taking drugs or anything. He said he hasn't taken none in a long time, but I know in the beginning stages before he was diagnosed, there was a little usage that it made things like way worse. But I mean, he said he hasn't taken nothing in a long time, so I mean, and I would think maybe drug drug tests also,
Okay. What
and
is
keeping him on his
there a shot?
medication. When me and him talked, I recommended to him stay getting a shot. That way he don't have to worry about taking a pill every day.
How frequently would he need to have that shot?
When he first started in Vega, they had him going once a month,
Mhm.
but it takes a month to kick in. So that first month was kind of iffy, and then as long as you take it every month, then they moved him to. He was doing good at one point, so they moved the shot from once a month to once every 3 months.
Okay. Uh, when was the last time that he was on the Invega shot? Do you recall?
I'm sorry.
When was the last time that he had taken the Invega shot before he got moved to the other medication?
Probably I think it was like 2023 sometime, because then after that he was on the pills Trileptal. They wanted to try and get him on Trileptal because it was more of a, they said, more of a mood stabilizer.
Mhm. Okay. Um, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the court? I realize that you're here on the request of the state, but really we're trying to figure out what's best for both you and Mr. Wilson. So is there anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, even though he's going to jail all those times, I don't see him as a bad person. And I feel like that's the reason why I keep trying to help him, because I know that it's a mental thing. Like, but he has to want it just as bad as I do, because I can't make a grown person, stay on their medication and do the things that, like, he wants to be in his kid's life, and I want him to be in his kid's life, but I'm like, eventually they're going to get old enough to where I don't want them seeing, you trip out and stuff. And I know it's a lifelong thing that we would have to deal with, but I'm like, as long as he's trying and I know that he's trying, I'm going to try with him, because I know the person that he is and the father that he is, and he's a hard worker and everything. And like, he's smart. He can do so many different things when it comes to fixing stuff and doing stuff, but I feel like this just takes, like, it just takes over everything, and nobody gets to see the good that he do or the person that he is, because we're always dealing with this.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Stewart, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Stewart, Ms. Hagler, did you have any other questions for Ms. Stewart?
No, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Stewart, the reason I gave you that information is because you have a lifelong tie to Mr. Wilson, whether y'all stay in a relationship or not. The NAMI helps people who have relationships with folk with mental illness, it's not they assist with your focus on him, but also the focus on you. And you've expressed to me some things that are pretty consistent with people who are in a relationship, whether it's a familial relationship or a romantic relationship with somebody who has mental illness. And then it's that other people use the word crazy and you're not crazy. And then that person takes to heart the stigma of mental illness. And then you got to fight against that in order to make sure he's medically compliant, because you see it in home. They only see what presents when he's stable. So NAMI has support groups for families. They have information on how to broach this with kids. You have a 6-year-old, and as a mom, I know how much kids pick up on that we think they don't because they're young, but then you'll be riding in the car and they'll ask a question and you're like, I didn't even know they knew anything about that. And so you'll get information about how to deal with mental illness and how to explain it to your children, or how to deal with the children having the impact from it. But most importantly, that 988 number is really, really key, because when you're in a crisis situation, you don't want to be in a situation where you're having to rely on the police to understand this is a mental health illness as opposed to violence and intentional violence. You understand?
Yeah.
So keep those resources, use those resources, whether he's in the home or not. Those things are for you. The NAMI stuff is for you to be able to help navigate this situation. Because unfortunately, once you have someone who has mental illness and they're an adult, unless you have a guardianship over them, you don't get to dictate their health care.
Right.
All you can do is suggest. The doctors aren't going to communicate with you in any way because of HIPAA and their and the privacy issues surrounding healthcare. Okay, so whether you were married or not, you still wouldn't have that ability to get to push from that side.
Yeah, because
But
there have been times I didn't try to, be like, instead of going to jail, you go to a
yeah.
psychiatric ward or something, and they was like, we can't force him to do nothing that he doesn't want to do, or
Doesn't want to do. And then the other thing is, NAMI may help you also to explain to these individuals who are in his ear about him being crazy. And it's not crazy, it is an illness, just like hypertension, diabetes, those things that need care, that if you don't treat them consistently, then you will suffer. And so it is the same thing. And so NAMI may have information that you can share with those people who are working against you, kind of, trying to convince him that he doesn't need the medication or he doesn't need the treatment. And I think a lot of times what we don't admit is because those individuals think it reflects poorly on them. That if he has a situation, it might mean that we do also, or we didn't raise him right, or, so I think people are more concerned about sometimes how it reflects on them as opposed to the relationship that he has with you and his children.
right.
And I don't want you to think, I think he's a bad person, because people who have mental health issues, it's like they're a different person. They're different than the person they normally are.
Right.
So, Ms. Hagler, did you have other witnesses that you wanted to present?
Yes, Sean, at the time, I'd like to call Officer Rios to the stand, or?
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Stewart, I'd like for you to listen to the rest of the hearing, if that's okay.
Yes.
All
I
right.
can.
So just mute your device and you can hear the rest of it.
All
right,
Rios, can you? Okay, go ahead, Judge.
Oh, I'm sorry, Officer Rios. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find him on the screen. There we are. Yes. Oh, there you are. Raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down. Statement, go ahead and examine the witness.
Thank you. Can you please state your first and last name for the record?
My name is Armando Rios.
And can you please spell your first and last name for the record?
First name is spelled Armando. Last name is spelled Rios.
Okay. And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Clayton County Police Department.
Okay. And were you employed with the Clayton County Police Department on September the 13th of 2024?
Yes.
And are you PERS certified and credentialed?
Yes.
And are all your credentials up to date?
Yes.
And were you post certified and credentialed on September the 13th of 2024?
Yes.
And do you have arrest powers?
Yes.
Did you have arrest powers on that day?
Yes, I did.
And were you on official duty and working in your official capacity on that day as well?
Yes.
And were you dispatched to 6097 Yellowwood Court?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the nature of that dispatch?
So that night on September 13th, we were dispatched in reference to a domestic and reference to Miss Stewart calling, stating that her boyfriend or her husband, Mr. Wilson, had thrown the TV over the balcony, which is it balcony? Is the second floor on the house, but it's
Okay.
inside. So he had thrown that over and making threats in reference to burning the house down.
Okay. And what county is that location located in?
That is in Clayton County.
Okay. Upon your arrival, did you speak to anyone?
Yes, upon the arrival, I spoke with the victim, Ms. Stewart.
Okay. And what did she tell you?
So she had actually she was downstairs asleep, I believe, that night, and she woke up to a loud bang. And as she opened her eyes, she said she seen the TV on the floor where she was at, which was the first floor of the house. And she tended to look up. That's when she saw Mr. Wilson on top of the second floor, just standing there.
Okay. And what else did she tell you happened on that day when you spoke to her?
So she told me that she mentioned him yelling and nobody's gonna watch this TV and threatening to just burn down the house. That was just all his statements.
Okay. And when you spoke to Miss Stewart, what was her demeanor? Describe her demeanor.
Her demeanor that night was just a little frightening, but not as scared because this is not my first encounter with Mr. Wilson as well. So she has called several times, but she knows what he goes through. And like I told her that night, it would be out of my hands. I can get him medical out there, but now if he refuses, he that's on him. Because I think the first time I've encountered him, we started medical for him, and he was not on scene anymore before medical got there.
Okay, so you said that, so he wasn't on scene, so meaning he fled?
Yes, he left. Well, not this time.
Okay.
That was the first time my encounter with him.
Okay, gotcha. So to confirm, you said that her demeanor, she was frightened on that day?
Yes.
Okay.
It was like a frightened, not frightened demeanor.
Okay. Did she appear upset?
She appeared upset because it's like she wants to get him help, and she knows that calling us was not the correct choice because of how we go about our doing. Is either we protect and serve. And that's what I told her. I was like, I can get him to help out here. Now it's up to him. Unless she had power of attorney over him because of his mental state, then we can go that route and try to 1013 him.
Okay. Did you speak to anyone else on that day besides Miss Stewart?
Yes, I spoke with her mom, which was Miss Ruby, that night.
Okay, what did she tell you?
And she said she was on the second floor when She heard the Mr. Wilson making the threats of burning the house, and that's all she heard. It was just the statement said from him.
Okay. Did either one of them provide any type of witness statements throughout your investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak to anyone else on that day besides Miss Ruby and Miss Ruby Stewart and her Miss Taisha Stewart? I'm sorry.
No, I didn't speak with anybody else.
Okay. How did you end up concluding your investigation?
So the conclusion of my investigation was basically on the hard evidence of the TV on the ground, which was
Okay.
broken. And just other than Ms. Stewart, party as just acknowledging that, okay, this is the statement that I heard in reference to the terroristic threats. It was just not her. It was also Miss Ruby that heard it.
Okay. And you said that Miss Ruby was on the second floor of the house. How far, like, from where Miss Taisha was, how far away was Miss Ruby? You said to the second part of the house. So how far was the distance?
So it would, I couldn't put a measurement to it, but it
Okay.
wasn't as far.
So it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't like as real close to be like real close together, but it wasn't as far. But it was at a distance where, yes, I can hear that clearly.
Okay. And at some point, was the defendant arrested on that day?
Yes.
And what was he arrested for?
He was arrested for the criminal trespass on the damage for the TV and the terroristic threats.
Okay. And you said the criminal trespass for the TV and the terroristic threats. And why for the terroristic threats again?
So the terroristic threat came about Ms. Stewart, Ms. Taisha making the statement that, okay, I heard Mr. Wilson making a statement that I'm gonna burn down the house. And not just her statement, Ms. Ruby as well said, hey, yes, I heard it as well.
Okay. What was Miss Ruby's demeanor when she heard the statement? Were you able to engage her demeanor at that time?
Miss Ruby, she was just more of a like shock, something like not really have been through this.
Okay. Did she appear to be frightened as well when you spoke to her? How was her demeanor?
She wasn't as frightened
Okay.
because she, like I said, she only heard the statement, so she didn't see further action.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor, for the questions for Officer Rios.
All right, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Officer Rios. When you arrived on scene, you evaluated it, and you determined that based on the two, Ms. Stewart and Ms. Stewart's mother, that a threat had been made, correct?
Yes.
And how did you have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Wilson, or did you immediately place him under arrest?
I didn't immediately place them in handcuffs that moment. I had them to sit down on the end of the steps as I was doing my investigation, and he actually, he listened and he just was right there. So I can't remember what I asked him in reference to the situation. And say again.
What was Mr. Wilson's demeanor? Was he agitated or calm?
No, he was just calm.
Yeah. And based on the circumstances that you encountered, what options were available to you?
So my only options was for me to start our medical to give him evaluation, and if he would like to be transported to go to the facility and get checked out further, then we can go that route.
Did he decline
So I didn't, like I said, I didn't start it this time because the very first encounter, because this was my second encounter with him. The first time he was not on scene and he has declined previously.
In your experience as an officer, as a, I guess, patrol officer, have you responded to other medical health calls?
Yes.
And in those situations, does the person that's experiencing that medical health incident typically request or not require, but request or voluntarily go along with medical care?
Yes, I've dealt with some that actually, if they request it or if I can see it and their family members are telling me this and they show me all the proof that this is what they're diagnosed with, then I start the medical.
But it varies upon the situation. Is that fair?
Yes, it varies.
Did Miss Taisha Stewart, did she indicate what she would like to happen that evening?
That evening, I cannot remember that evening, but to my knowledge, she was preferring go medical route. Like I told her, we can start it, but it's up to him at this point if he's gonna deny it or not.
And assuming that he denied it, what options were available to you at that point?
So the next option for me was to take him down to the county jail.
And arrest him on the charges based on your investigation?
Yes.
Thank you, officer. No further questions.
All right, any redirect?
Just one quick clarity. So Officer Rios, on this incident, for clarity purposes, are you saying that the defendant did deny medical on that day, which is why he was arrested for the charges?
No, this time, I'm like I said, because of previous times, and I just was like, okay, if he denied it previously,
Okay.
I would just go my route.
Okay, thank you for the clarity. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, any other witnesses for the state?
At this time, Your Honor, the state have to call one final witness, Miss, if she's still on, Miss Ruby Stewart.
All right, Miss Ruby.
Miss Stewart, if you could please.
Her phone went dead, but she's on my phone. I don't know if.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine. If just let her sit where you were sitting and just make herself comfortable.
No. Well, I take the phone anyway.
Miss Ruby.
Hello.
Hi, you want to sit down for me? You could. Is there a chair?
Hello?
Available? Yes, ma'am. You want to
I'm
sit
here.
down for me, Miss Ruby?
Okay, hold on. Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I can't
All right. Can you hear
Can
me?
you talk up a little bit because I can't hardly hear?
Yes,
Close the
ma'am.
door.
Raise your right hand for me.
She has to close the door. I can't hear.
Raise your right hand for me, Miss Ruby.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give will be true?
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down now. All right, Miss Hagler, you have questions for Miss Ruby Stewart. Miss Ruby, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just trying to separate you from Miss Taisha Stewart. So I was calling you Miss Ruby, but I can call you Miss Stewart if you wish.
Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, go ahead, Miss Hagler.
Thank you, Judge. Please state your first and last name for the record.
Ruby
And
Stewart.
And please spell your first and last name for the record.
Ruby, R-U-B-Y, Stewart, S-U-T, W-S-U-T, S-T-E-W-A-R-D.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart. Ms. Stewart, I'd like to draw your attention to, September the 13th of 2024, were officers called to 6097 Yellowwood Court?
Yes,
And were you present at that time?
yes.
And can you please tell the court what happened on that day?
Okay, I was laying in the bed and I woke up with this hollering and screaming. And my room is closer to my daughter's room. So I went and stood by the balcony and heard him hollering and screaming. So I heard him say something about he was going to burn the house down. So as he said he was going to burn the house down, I kicked the door in and the door opened. And what I observed was my daughter sitting on the end of the bed. She wasn't saying nothing. He unplugged the TV. He pulled the TV out, and I was standing. And then I came out and was standing by the balcony, and he threw the TV. He said he was gonna tear the TV over the balcony, and she said, "You gonna do this to your kids?" And he said, "I bought it." So he threw it over to there. So my daughter, she went downstairs, and I knew what she was gonna do, call the police, but he never knew it because he was still raving. So she went down. She went down the stairs to call the police. He still was upstairs. I was still upstairs. Then all of a sudden, I see the police coming. And when the police came, they called him downstairs a couple of times. He wouldn't come, so he came downstairs. He sit on the steps. Once he sat on the steps, they asked him questions. They said, "Did you throw the TV over the balcony?" He said, "It's my TV."
And
So
when you
they
say
kept
he,
asking
who are you
questions.
referring to, Ms. Rubin? When you say he, who are you referring to?
Oh, Joe, my daughter's baby daddy, Joe,
Okay,
the one in the orange jumpsuit.
okay, so Mr. Wilson, Joseph Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, and you can continue. Mhm. So the police
Okay.
came.
So when the police came, they asked him questions, and the only thing he said was it was his TV. And they asked me, did I hear him say something about burning the house down? I said, yes. So they asked me, would I write a statement? And I said I would. And that
Okay.
was the end of it.
So, when you initially heard the statement, describe your daughter's demeanor at that time.
Well, when I heard the statement, they didn't know that I was standing by the door all this time because her room is closer to mine. I heard a lot that he was calling her names, doing stuff. So I was standing by her door a long time before I kicked the door in. And I heard everything. When I heard that, then I didn't know what he would do. So that's when I kicked the door.
Okay. And when you saw her at that time, what was her demeanor?
She was sitting on the end of the bed and she wasn't saying nothing because usually she don't say nothing. And then I seen him over there unplugging the TV. So I just stood there and didn't say nothing either. So when he unplugged the TV, he came out with the TV and I was still standing by the door and he just threw it over the balcony.
Okay.
And he still went on the page. But she never said a word.
Did your daughter appear to be upset at that time?
She was, yeah, she was mad, but she know how to cope with stuff like that. You know, she was mad, but she been through it so much to where she just, I can't describe it, but she was mad because she did tell him, "You gonna do the kids like that?" And he said, "I bought it."
Okay.
Because it was a kids TV.
Okay. Did she appear to be frightened at that time when that statement was made?
Well, when I heard him say something about he gonna burn the house down, I wasn't in it at the time. I kicked the door in at the time he said that. So when the police came and she was talking to the police, I heard her say, "I'm not gonna let you burn the house down. I'm tired of this."
How else did she appear to you when you saw her after you kicked the door in?
Yes.
How else did she appear to you?
Tired, mad.
Okay. Okay. On that day, did you see the defendant get arrested?
Yes.
Okay. And did you provide a statement to the officers regarding what happened?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Further questions for Ms. Stewart?
All right, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is it okay if I call you Miss Ruby? Is it okay if I call you Miss Ruby?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Mr. Taylor, or I'm Taz. So, You, how long have you known Mr. Wilson? How long have you known Joe?
About 2 years.
Have you been around Joe when he's having a medical episode or a mental health?
Yes.
So you're familiar with how he acts during that period. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was his behavior on this occasion consistent, the same as when he's had other episodes?
Well, this episode, it seemed like it get worser.
Okay. Did your daughter tell you why she thought he was having this episode?
No, I never got to talk to my daughter.
Okay.
But see, most of the time she knows how to talk to him, but sometimes when she talked to him and tried to bring him down, she ain't got no control.
Okay. When you entered the bedroom, do you think that helped the matter, or do you think it?
Okay, when I entered the bedroom, the reason why I entered the bedroom because he was getting louder and louder and louder, and I didn't know what he was going to do. But when he said about burning the house down, I just kicked the door and the door opened. And at that time that I kicked the door open, she was sitting at the end of the bed and she wasn't saying nothing. And he was over there unplugging the TV. So I don't think it escalated. The reason why I said it didn't escalate because he was already at that point.
He was already agitated.
Yeah, he was already hostile.
Okay. Do you think, have you been around Mr. Wilson when he's on his medication?
Really, I don't know when he taken. Well, I have been around him when he took his medication. Yes, I have.
And is his behavior different when he's taking his medication?
Yes.
For the better?
It's a difference because he sleeps, he's mellow and he just be himself. Like he ain't,
Yeah.
So the medication do make a difference.
It helps him.
Yes, help a lot.
When he's on his medication, do you think he's a good person to your daughter?
When he's on the medication, he's a good thing to my daughter, yeah. And once he stay busy, he's really good. When he stay busy and stuff and got something to do and don't trigger his mind to where he thinks other things because his trip is with my daughter.
He doesn't have time to think bad thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah.
He stays busy.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you participating today. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Hagler?
No, Your Honor, this time the state rests.
All right. All right. Anything, argument on behalf of the state or Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask that you do both the defendant's bond. The defendant did commit another offense on September 13th of 2024. All the witnesses that testified for the state, to include the officer, Ms. Taisha Stewart, Ms. Ruby Stewart, they all testified the defendant did get arrested on that day, again, for terroristic threats, which is a violation of the defendant's probation. So based on the facts presented, the evidence presented, the state will ask that you revoke the defendant's probation. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Your Honor. You've heard the testimony here today. I don't think there's any question that Mr. Wilson made those statements. However, I don't think he was in a frame of mind where he intended. If he had not been off his medication and not suffering a mental health episode, I don't think he would have made those statements. I think that was a different person, and I believe Mr. Wilson is a different person when he's receiving appropriate medical care and allows himself to be medicated and the medication's effective. I don't think there would be any benefit to be served by Mr. Wilson sitting in custody in the jail for 10 months. He may receive some medication there, but he's not going to receive any treatment, and he's not going to have an opportunity to fix the problems in his life, which I think could be addressed by work, which he's been actively seeking work that would occupy him make him physically tired and want to go to sleep, which seems to be a trigger, the lack of sleep and something to occupy his give him mental stimulation so he's not preoccupied with his thoughts. And, it's very common that when a person's undergoing a mental health medical episode, that they don't realize they're having it. So when they speak to somebody who offers them treatment, they're like Ms. Taisha Stewart said, they don't understand. So they deny it because they think they're acting perfectly rationally when they're not. I just would ask the court to consider these factors when they're making the decision on Mr. Wilson's probation. Thank you.
All right, what's the recommendation from probation?
Your Honor, the original recommendation was to revoke 90 days, but we defer to the court and to the solicitor.
Is Mr. Taylor, does he get medication in the jail?
He has been receiving medication in the jail. I'm not sure if it's the one that's prescribed outside of the jail. Are you getting the same one? No. He did indicate to me, and Mr. Lynch sent me a note that in addition to receiving the medication in jail, he did an anger management class while he's been in custody, and that he had a job lined up. He'd been actively seeking work, as we talked about.
Okay.
Witnesses.
How long has he been in?
Since September 13th, the day of the terroristic threats incident.
Okay, so this is what the court's going to do. So the court finds that Mr. Wilson has violated the terms and conditions of probation, but to the limited extent that he failed to continue medical management and comply with his medicine as necessary to maintain his mental health. Mr. Wilson, you don't get to stop taking your medicine when you feel better, sir.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
there's something going on with the medicine, then you got to work with your doctors until they find the right combination for you to help you to continue to be well. But
Yeah.
the problem is you as a grown person can make certain decisions that have a detrimental effect on your entire family.
Yes, ma'am.
You have little kids, and from what I understand, you're a good father to those kids. But when you make decisions about your medical treatment and you make changes to your medical treatment without consulting a physician, when you stop taking your meds, or when you decide that you're not going to go back because you feel good, then you have run the risk of harming your kids. If nothing else, just the way they look at you as a father.
Yes, ma'am.
When other people talk about, well, man, you're not crazy, you don't need to take, those are other people who don't live in your household. They're not paying your bills. They're not doing things for you. They're not supporting you in the way that Ms. Stewart is supporting you. And so if you listen to other people who have no ability to benefit you and your family, and you let them convince you to put at risk all that you have at home, then that's not good common sense.
Yes, ma'am.
And from what I understand from Ms. Stewart, absent the medical issues, you're a pretty good guy.
Yes, ma'am. I am Miss Hayward. I promise you, if you give me one more chance, I promise you, I won't.
But the problem is, I need you to be better than what people say. You having a mental health illness is just like somebody having diabetes, somebody having hypertension, somebody having any other illness that they got to stay on medication.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can't make the decision by yourself that you're just going to stop taking your meds. I understand. I have heard it time and time again that the meds aren't working, or they make me feel sluggish, or they do this or they do that. I get that. But they have so many medications, so many classes of medication. They have so many different types of therapies now available to people with mental health illness that you can keep going back to the doctor until they get it right. okay? But you cannot just decide you're not going to take meds.
I promise you, I would take the shot every month.
Okay, put it on your calendar, put a reminder in your phone. Set the reminder in your phone. Okay, this is the day I take the shot. This is the day I take the shot, because you have a good family. Do you want to mess that up?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You don't want your kids living in fear, and you don't want Miss Stewart living in fear.
No, ma'am. Not at all.
Okay, so this is what you got to commit to. So I'm going to give you credit for time served and return you to probation.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to avoid alcohol and any illicit drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you'll test for alcohol and illicit drugs randomly.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're to continue your medical management and stay on your medicines as directed by your physician.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you're to continue all the terms and conditions of probation.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I think for everybody concerned, can we ask to show proof of the medication?
Right. You're going to show proof to probation that you're meeting with your doctors and you're getting your shot monthly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're trying to get a job, so I'll waive supervision fees at this time.
It's a blessing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. No, thank you.
Mr. Wilson, you trying to be there for your family, but until you start, kind of getting comfortable with the fact that this is something that you're going to deal with and medicine is part of it, you cannot let somebody else convince you to go against the family that's supporting you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Ms. Stewart is a wonderful person, and wonderful in the sense that a lot of people would walk away from the situation because of the negatives, but she sees the positive, and she's willing to come here and tell us all that it's not just the disease that the person has, it's the person. And she's looking at the person, not just the disease.
Right.
If she's willing to stick by you and look at the person, you know how much love and respect that takes from somebody.
Yes, ma'am.
So don't listen to those other people who tell you what to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Because they're going to jeopardize that good thing that you got going on.
Yes, ma'am.
All right? Okay. So you'll return to probation. You'll do your medical management through your assigned physician, through your physicians. You'll continue probation as directed. And then I guess we'll deal with the other case when it comes up. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. Please remember these things. Please take care of yourself. And Ms. Stewart, please remember 988.
Your
All
Honor,
right.
if I may
Your
give
Honor.
Mr. Wilson a
Yes,
next
Mr.
report date.
Wilson, listen up for your next report date, okay?
Mr. Wilson, if you'll report to our office in person, October 17th, that's a Thursday of next week at 9 a.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor,
Okay.
does Mr. Wilson
Thank
have a bond on the 07816 case? I wasn't able,
Yeah, he doesn't have a bond on that one.
I'm not sure. I wasn't able to look it up.
If he, okay, check and see, but if he doesn't have a bond, because he's already on probation, and he does come for probation, I didn't see that he doesn't appear. Is that correct, Ms. Chang?
Your Honor, he can report within 48 hours or 24 hours of his release.
No, what
If
my question is
sorry.
have you had issues with him reporting?
He reported one time, and that was by phone. And then he was to report, I believe, September the 26th, but he was incarcerated at that time.
So he really hadn't had time to establish a record.
That's correct.
Okay. I'll set the bond at, do you hear me, Mr. Taylor? I'll set the bond at $2,000.
Yes.
Well, Your Honor, he has an order for bond in the file.
Okay, I didn't know, Mr. Taylor,
So,
he didn't think there was a bond.
I mean, I don't know, I don't see the actual amount, but there is an order for bond that was signed on September the 14th.
Okay, so the issue is, here's the thing, sometimes in magistrate court, on a case where they are already on a pending case that involves violence, where they already have probation or a conviction for a previous violent offense, they will no bond them under 1710-1 because they want to make sure that the judge who holds the probation or the parole has the opportunity to review the case. So it is possible that he is on a no bond from magistrate court. So if he has a bond.
He does. It's 2,000. I just found it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's consistent with what I would have done. All right.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Right. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Stewart.
Okay, so what, we still have the remaining case. We're just gonna wait till that comes back up, or what we doing? I mean,
We do have the remaining case.
you don't, I mean, you have options, not guilty, or NOLO, although I don't know, NOLO might be a little tricky, but based on this testimony, I mean, it might work. But did you want to wait until Mr. Lynch comes back? Because if he bonds out, he'll still be able to come on an arraignment calendar.
Ms. Hagler, would we be able to run the probation concurrent with his current probation? I do have your previous.
That's fine.
Then we'd like to enter a guilty plea at this time, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. All right. So, Mr. Wilson.
Okay. When you bond out within 48 hours. No. You're absolutely right. You'll get out. We'll check with you, John.
And you already had the current offer for this case, right, Attorney Taylor?
12 months probation, 40 hours of community service, $300 fine, anger management.
Okay, perfect. Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Ms. Hayward.
All right, wait, we still got to do the plea. Hold on. All right. What do we know how long he's been in, or what date he was in?
I believe intake was on September 13th.
Okay.
When I come back tomorrow, I'll make sure you are at.
All right. All right, Mr. Wilson, you've already been sworn. You're before the court on the case. All right, so sir, you're before the court for 2024 CR 07816 for terroristic threats and acts. Joseph Demond Wilson. You're represented by Attorney Taylor. You have, Mr. Taylor, what does your client plead to the offense before the court?
Your Honor, he pleads guilty to the single count.
All right, by entering a plea of guilty, sir, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you are not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir? All right, factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On or about September the 13th of 2024, pursuant to the probable cause affidavit, Officer Armando, Armando Rios, was dispatched to 6097 Yellowwood Court, Clayton County, Georgia. Throughout his investigation, it was determined that the defendant did commit the act of criminal trespass when he threw a Roku TV over the balcony, causing it to break. The said cost was valued at $200 for the damaged TV. Additionally, the defendant committed the act of terroristic threat when he told the victim, Miss Taisha, Tiaisha Stewart, Steward, that he will burn down the house. This terroristic threat was heard by Miss Ruby, Ruby Stewart, Steward. Your Honor, at this time, the state's recommendation is 12 months probation, 40 hours of community service, anger management, and a fine of $300. And the state does not have any issue with this case running concurrent with case number 2024 CR 06690.
All right, Mr. Taylor.
Your Honor, we just ask that you accept the recommended sentence. We would request that you waive the probation fees in this matter as well.
Okay. All right, so Mr. Wilson, I'm going to accept your plea of guilty. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve, 12 months probation, 40 hours of community service, an anger management course, a fine in the amount of $300, which will be $444 with the surcharges. I'm going to waive the supervision fees. My understanding is that you have a line on a job, so let's hope you'll be able to get that job, and then this will kind of assist your family without having a huge financial burden. And then that will run concurrent with your probation on case 2024 CR 06690. All right. Anything else?
Nothing further from the defense, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Wilson, it is not about you at this point. It is about those babies that you have to raise with Ms. Stewart. So whenever you think that you need to deviate from your medical plan, I need you to remember you got babies that you got to take care of. So you got to suck it up and take that medicine. If it's not working for you, go back to the doctor and tell them exactly what you're feeling and how it's making you feel, so they can help you figure out the right medicine for you, okay? All right, because I care about them babies. Y'all have babies that you got to be there for, and you are not, my understanding is you are dad. So I need dads. I need fathers, not just baby daddies. I need fathers.
Yes, ma'am. I got you.
Okay? All right. So go ahead, go back and do better, okay?
Thank you. It's really good to meet you. The probation officer will. Okay. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have knocked it out, I think. It's my understanding that we are done at this point with this calendar. So if any of you have relatives in a hurricane zone, and Florida's been hit pretty hard, but you might want to tell them to head this way. Because don't want to have anybody in an unfortunate situation. All right, take care, everybody, and I will see you next time.
Thank you, Judge. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.